advocating that the community boycotts Ghana, and there was quite a debate
About that,
about that, and a whole lot of people who had interest in state money fought and went in to the thing. But I was particularly disappointed that one Rastafari was amongst them. RUZ.
Yeah, RUZ.
Yeah? And their presence inside of the inquiry made it possible for Scarman to make the idiotic remarks that he makes about Rastafari as peaceful something and sad.
Yeah.
It's grotesque.
Grotesque.
And what was the brethren name?
I'm trying to think as you speak about him now. What's his name? What's we call him?
Jabones.
Jabones.
Yeah.
Jabones.
Yeah.
It's a good book.
No, wait. So
no, this is an individual.
Bones. No.
Jab Blue is what I'm thinking.
No.
It's the same
Not
person.
Jablu. Bones.
Bones.
Jabones. No Jablu.
Okay.
Alright. So there's a problem of how the movement presented itself in the inquiry. I agree with Ricky that about how the Brixton uprising started Saturday. Sorry, the Friday in question. It went on for 2 or 3 other days, and what happened on that afternoon is by no means the whole story, and the explanation for what happened on that afternoon can't explain what happened elsewhere, and also what happened in the months following when all 30-odd urban areas exploded with the same young people carrying the struggle. Now, there were white young people there as well. We know that from they gave us the list of those arrested for Brixton, and ethnicity was on the package, so we know
as well.
We know something about that. So I don't think it's a question when you deal with Rastafari influence about numbers of participants, although probably most of the black youths who participated might very well have had luck. I'm not saying that they did, but they could have done. So the issue becomes what is in the heads of the black youths in 76 in Ladbroke Grove, in 80 in Bristol, and for all of the other uprisings that people were involved in. And Ricky's absolutely right that the main driver is police brutality. Yeah. So there's no doubt about that. But police, and Jahlani's point about ethos is important. The police are Babylon, Rastafari notion, right? And what's in the heads of our youngsters? I saw it very spectacularly in Birmingham in 1977, when we had the biggest African Liberation Day in the UK, and thousands and thousands of young people were on the street. And go look at the pictures. It's solidly locks young men. So in the heads of the angry young people was a conception of themselves as African, which they got from Garvey, from Rastafari, from Bob Marley, from Burning Spear, whatever. And the way they process their anger and the way they saw the state is fundamentally Rastafari. It's absolutely, so the wicked, and we get in the music, right? Ladbroke Grove, one side of the 76 uprising, right? The youths who were on the street were that group youths from all over the place. As would Free Babylon Come to Me by Ireland, and all of the music from whether it's Misty Roots or the people who sing Hands with Revolution or Aswad, all of the others, they're Rastafari, they have locks, and they're the ones who are setting the ethos.
But you see, I think they have locks.
Huh? And it's in their lyrics.
I mean, I think they have locks, Gutsy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think, and they talk as if they're Rastafarians, they walk as if they're Rastafarians. You man, them.
But they're not jobless.
I'm not
convinced that they are.
I know.
So let me.
I know.
Let me share.
Genuinely.
Let me share.
And important. That is actually motivated.
Ricky, you're right, you know.
Yeah.
Because it's complicated.
But Cecil.
The ethos. Part.
Your turn. I came in before.
Carol, I don't know if you know
like
Carol Boyce Davis.
It's useful.
Do I know her?
You know,
Me live with her.
Okay.
Me live with her, brethren.
Well, it's interesting that I should draw for her.
Right.
Because she has one paper that
Right.
mentions Rastafari.
Right.
She does this paper when she's doing her LLM, Law Masters of Law degree. So
Right.
it's about 15 years or a little more than that now.
Yeah.
And she says when you are in the North American particular diaspora, and it could happen in Europe, when as a black person, even if you're born there, people are suggesting that you don't belong there. The feeling of statelessness is so strong that Rastafari becomes an international identity.
Right.
That is easy for you to assume.
So far, so good.
You might not know what it means, you know.
Yeah.
But what you know is that you have a bag of options to reach for. The first one is the statement with the hair. The next one is the psychological support of a catalog of solacing music.
Yeah.
The next one is a direction politically as to what you can begin to imagine for yourself.
Yeah.
And then it goes on.
But you and her accept that these are facts.
No, but what I like about what she
arising from a
says.
status.
No, what I like about what she's saying is that Rastafari allows you an answer, even if you're not Rastafari.
No, take it from us.
Yeah.
Take it from
it
me.
allows you an anchor.
In St. Catherine, on the across the river from where I was born.
You're talking Pinnacle?
Pinnacle! These men used to come down in their slampata with their logwood bunch on their backs and locks. I smoked the weed with these dreadwinds, brethren. I was expelled from school because of it. I know that culture very, very well. To this day, my brother, who is a poet and other things, is a Rastafarian. I know his attitude. The attitude is that there is this ethos you speak of that motivates people in the way he's motivated. But he's studying law. He can read law books and he can read political science, etc., etc. What I think we leave out of that characterization is something much more fundamental that young people latch on to ideologies which they may deeply seriously not know a great deal about, which they
But most ideology
regret.
has that though. That
I'm not sure about that.
Meaning that you have various positions towards the conviction. You have a core and then you have periphery.
All right. Yeah.
You know?
All right. So, in a way, it's just a warning about how the ethos may be said to motivate young black people.
Tell me something.
Yeah.
The work of Seymour McLean. When I listen to what you're trying to achieve with 1981, I find maybe radical blackness and England, not just one episode, but really trying to historicize what we don't understand about the struggle of the diasporic people in Britain. So I saw a very good film on Seymour McLean.
Yeah.
Excellent. The dramatization. I actually used it in a class.
I know of it.
I didn't expect that it was that good. But the lawyer for Seymour McLean was damn good.
Yeah.
You know, and I just remember watching him.
What film was
The
it?
Book Liberator is the name of the film.
Yes.
Okay.
If you Google,
Oh yes, he lives 2 doors down. He lived 2 doors down in Catford.
You're from Catford?
I was staying in Catford. Yeah.
You know that's where my family's anchored in the UK.
Really?
Yeah.
There's a lot of black people living
Catford,
in.
yeah.
There's a lot of black people living in
Lewisham,
Catford.
I don't know if you know Joe Witter.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course I know.
My cousin married his eldest son.
Okay, so Sylvia.
Well,
Sylvia.
Sylvia's your cousin. I know
Sylvia is my
Sylvia.
mother's oldest niece.
Yes, and I know Sylvia. I wish you want to give me a hug. Give me a hug. Family.
Oh,
Crucial.
Minard Road is my second home.
Yes, Minard. Well, I lived on Broadfield Avenue, which is off Minard.
I went to Leeds, right? And while I was at Leeds, that was where I went for all of my holidays.
Okay, so you might have walked past me on the road and.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Anyway, back to yes, I know Sylvia well, and I know Basil, and I know Christine, and I know all of them. Tony, Christine, Doreen.
Listen, Sylvia is my favorite cousin.
Oh, okay, lovely.
Yeah. She's my eldest cousin.
Yeah.
And in a sense, she's just turned, I think she's like 72 now, 73. Yeah, so she's up in age now. But she's not been to Jamaica in years because of various things,
Yes. Yeah, ask her if she don't know Arlene.
If you have another sweet, I'll have it. And another glass of wine.
Come, give me 1 second, please.
Put it there.
Jahlani, back to your point though
You
about
get it?
historicizing
this one
it
now,
and
it carries you on to that.
the radical. I mean, culture is dynamic, and right
So
now what
the total
is happening in the UK is
No,
nobody
not that.
knows
So you
where
will
it's
put in
going
this.
because we have a generation of young people who are
Am I you putting this one
completely
right
different.
here?
They're not anchored to the Caribbean,
I know.
but they're anchored.
4-4.
And in
They're
a
not
sense,
British.
you know, the memory of the Caribbean is now a little more distant.
So 3
Yes.
But so, for example, I was in France last
yes,
summer.
that is it.
I walk into a restaurant and I meet a black woman who can't speak English. She says, "Oh, I'm Jamaican." Well, she's not Jamaican, but that's the identity she's using to
Big deal.
to present to me as Jamaican. And then she's saying, "Well, you know, I'm really now more European. That's why I'm in France." You know. And I'm listening to this and I'm saying to myself, look at the journey of Jamaica now, because this is not connected, she's not bilingual. You know, this is not a capacity that is easy to access if you're a Jamaican like that in terms of the French. But so they're a little further away from the sentimentality of the parents. And Jamaica has to become a little more sexy to keep their interest.
Yes.
So Usain Bolt has done a lot for the Jamaican diaspora. You know, I remember when my nieces and
So
nephews
that
heard of it,
is
they all
what's
wanted
on
to
the
make a
line.
shirt after that. Before that, they weren't interested in
2,500
it.
cash.
So
As
we
I
have to be
find out
conscious
that now it's going to be whatever they
in
want to do
terms
it.
of
You tell me no, it's a no, sir.
Are all of Jamaican parentage, grandparentage.
Mhm.
In some instances, they want to come home. Somehow the roots are being cut off. The channels across nothing in the mind and also physically out of people's capacity to afford it. It's cheaper to go to Barbados. It's cheaper to go to Gambia, Ghana, any of the African countries. Portugal is looking very, if young black people, if they have any money, they're going to invest it in Portugal, Spain, the Mediterranean, Gambia, Ghana. That is my experience of people who have children, my children age, and then their children. So getting them to come to Jamaica, first you have to jump over the airfare hurdle, the crime and violence hurdle, cannot walk on the streets, cannot come out, cannot do this. It's fear, mental fear. Then there is our own people. Because if we don't bring into line what our own people do and say in comparison to when people come here, we kill it. We're doing this. We're doing this.
Yeah.
From the airport, from the time people arrive, and we've been doing, I work in tourism, so we've been doing this for the longest. Train. But our society is giving another information. We're getting other information that's defeating anything on customer service, anything on being nice and relaxed and easy.
So, may I ask a question? Right? Now that we're kind of further on in the conversation, what is the project? Clearly, I see if I can.
So, in my interpretation,
because my eyesight ain't that great.
And Ricky and Cecil are consultants in the, we're collecting stories from people whose stories have not been amplified with regard to what happened in 1981. That's what we're doing here. We're also creating, and Niaah has another perspective because he's actually creating what will be some of the legacy. In that one of the concerns we have is that how do we tell these stories and get them into the young people? Yes, and get them into young people. So Niaah is doing some of that with creating knowledge.
Can I say they can just pay for the other one in cash? That's too far. Yeah, okay. That's the first way for the one we must do.
That's the name of the book. She was a Jamaican senator who wrote a book. The dawn of the internet that went viral in a school, and I've heard of.
Oh yes. My friends in South London introduced it to me.
Yeah.
Yes, I know which one you mean.
Okay, all right. So the point I'm making is that there is a kind of methodology that you have to be prepared to follow in order to get to young people now. I think that Jamaican culture is, so there are a few things that you were saying. Black culture is Jamaican culture is Rastafari culture. That's the problem we don't want to have. But that's globally what's happening. Black culture, Jamaican and Rastafari. Yeah. And it's far more complex. That's really what you're saying. Yeah. But it's not unreasonable.
All right, okay, all right.
It's not unreasonable to cater to the main narrative while showing the complexity. Because it really now allows us to recognize that there's a genesis that Rastafari is very much at and responsible for and consistently present in. Yeah. But it might not be always apparent. Yeah. And sometimes it's not wise for it to be apparent either, because it gets things completely complicated. First you start to think about drugs, and then you start to think about things that might not be important. How it is that you become implicated, you become implicated in ways that you might not consent. So but yeah, that book reminded me though of imagination. This is a young woman in high school who she just begins to write based on her reality, but it's imagined, it's fictional. She's drawing from characters around her, but she's telling a Jamaican story. The Jamaican influence. Seven and then a break and then and like 10.
In the house, you say?
But yeah.
When
do you leave?
I'm going back on the 21st.
Oh,
Ah.
okay. So,
Coming. 1 second, you hear?
thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But before we go on, do you understand my intervention?
I did. I'm not sure I agree with you
I know
though,
you
because
don't, but, yeah.
because I would say to people come and ask me. I'm at the Rastafari Indigenous Village, and people come and ask me, so you're a Rasta? And I have to say to them, I'm on the journey, and it has influenced my life in a way that no other movement or no other part of has. So I'll say to them, this is who I am.
I was
and
once
I'm not
lost, by the way.
right, but it's not just about locks. It's about
I think before
your
Gutsy, I
activism.
was. No, no.
I've been before
God.
72.
But give understand, 51
Yeah,
years.
I think I was Gutsy.
No.
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 All right.
No, but you see,
So which is why I would say
Yeah.
that whole thing to do with the ethos is that it may not be the cause. The police were arresting this man that nobody would help, and they would not take him to hospital or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the young people had been oppressed because they couldn't play their reggae music.
Alright, so I want
They couldn't have their dance.
let me share this with you.
Yeah.
I went,
No, they could do all of those things in Brixton. They were doing it. I was
No,
participating
but
in
yes,
that.
but they were being arrested by sus law.
so good brother. Let me
Hold
make a suggestion.
Hold on. Get. Go on.
But you know the thing about Rastafari, right?
Yeah.
If you know Cecil, Rasta is Cecil.
Yeah.
If you know me, Rasta is Jahlani.
Right.
If you know a bubble priest, Rasta is that bubble priest.
Yeah.
Bob Marley is another version.
Indeed.
So
It's
highly eclectic.
I know that, brother.
And the problem in the inscription and description is trying to generalize what the Rasta
Wrongly.
is. So my students,
Yeah.
Rasta women, Rastafari don't allow their women to use birth control.
Yeah.
They don't wear makeup.
All this business.
Like, where did you get that crap from?
Yeah.
You're thinking that in the 21st century there are no Rastafari women using birth control,
Yeah,
or that
yeah,
a man
yeah,
can
yeah.
tell his woman
Exactly.
not to take pills if she wants to.
Alright.
So the
Is
point
there
I'm making
anything
is
else I
that
could get for anybody else?
I find that people are not looking at the diversity of Rastafari. They want to essentialize a snapshot.
Thank you.
What you are saying is that
I hope to see you guys back.
you might not be
Listen,
a
I'm
part
not
of
leaving as
Rastafari's
yet.
core
Just
philosophy,
come
but
back
you
and check on
certainly
you guys shortly.
are one of
Okay, thank you.
you're
Most
influenced,
Yeah.
affected by the movement in some shape or
Yeah.
form. And that's really all that we're
Completely.
saying. You know, in
Yeah.
fact, I think that, and this is the problem with Rastafari, we've really appropriated an ethos that is more than Rastafari as our exclusive ethos. Meaning that resistance has become Rastafari when it didn't always look like that. Before 1930, before Rastafari becomes a feature, we would have all been on the same bandwagon, but Rasta kind of push out now, leading a banner. And everybody now is on that bandwagon, even if you've not consented.
I think there's a
That's
danger
the
to
problem.
that, but I agree.
Yeah. But
We are Rasta.
and that is the
Because
ethos I'm talking about.
Because I'm lost. I once had lost. I'm now both.
But no, but if you really think about it,
Yeah.
when it goes to our core, most values,
Entirely.
Rastafari is what represents that.
Well,
Our core, most values. African redemption, African liberation, human equity and dignity, and I don't mention His Majesty. Me I talk about the fundamental things we're not theological or theocratical or
that's what you call the ethos.
that's what I'm describing as
Yeah.
ethos.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
When will you deliver your paper, Professor Jahlani?
It's on Friday, next Friday.
Will it be live streamed?
I'm not sure.
And where will it be, sir?
I'm doing it in St. Croix. I think there is I've never been there. I
Right.
gather there is a local university that the conference is being held at. And I know it's in the morning. But I can share the paper with Cecil.
Please.
I'd love to
Love to read it.
have it shared. And I actually, interestingly, at the start of COVID, I can share another paper which I've written. I was asked to make a contribution to a journal that was trying to find COVID responses around the world, into Asia, Journal of Cultural Studies. So I was asked to do a Jamaican perspective. When they asked me, the pandemic had just started and nothing really happened. You know, you kind of feel like you're fabricating ideas.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
the
yeah.
first thing that happened during our pandemic was that the television station went to Blue Mountain Peak and spoke to priest Dermot Fagan
Imagine that.
about what to expect.
Imagine that.
And
He would tell them
Fagan
that
gave
a
them
spaceship is
the 7
Yeah.
years of famine.
Yeah, I
It's going to
know.
get worse.
Of course.
And interestingly,
Don't I know it?
Interestingly, when the world started to lock down, I never found myself more consulted from people who were not Rasta saying, you have any ganja? Me hear say ganja good to COVID. Or,
Yeah.
you know, what Rasta I say about Wagwan.
Yes, indeed, brother.
So my paper actually, this is where the ethos actually begins.
Yeah.
The paper, if you Google it, you'll find it. It's open access. End of their stories. The end of Afro-pessimism. The end of Afro-pessimism.
It's called that.
Yes. Rastafari
Are you hearing
as
this?
ethos.
I'm going to beg you to look it up. for
Yeah,
me.
it's easy to find online. Once you go end of Afro-pessimism, my name is going to come. Yeah. But it started me thinking about the fall of Babylon and how it is that Rastafari had already invoked that, and how the pandemic felt like Babylon's implosion and all of that's happening.
I didn't tell you.
It's the greatest
It
interest
felt like
we've
Sullivan
had.
said, did it tell you, no?
The greatest interest we've had
Yeah.
from North American people
Yeah.
who have left about coming back home.
Oh, indeed.
Yes.
When them started
And-
catch
and English too.
problems
Yeah,
in
and
America,
English
everybody
too. And
wanted
English
to
too.
be back in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Man, say all
You
the
know,
big houses in St. Elizabeth start get full up again.
There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
People start come home.
Yeah. So I started to think about it, and then when the Black Lives Matter hashtag started, I'm saying, but that's Rastafari all along. That's what we've been saying. So the pandemic year actually was very insightful for me because
Sure.
it presented Rastafari with an uptake it never expected. and was not prepared for, still is flat-footed and completely unresolved about all that just happened.
Right.
We should have been in front of the solutions. We are nowhere near the table. So in a sense, it's almost as though, it's the same thing. The prophet is rejected from where he comes. Nobody's really trying to. During the pandemic, when the government made all of their principled response, Rastafari was never consulted as a part of that.
Yeah.
So lockdown, etc. Today we don't have any data that tells us about infection rates among people who were vaccine skeptics, who had plant-based nutrition, even though we've seen that internationally that plant-based seem to have been ahead of vaccines, etc. They've not taken advantage of our population in trying to look into things that we might be able to offer.
Yes.
And for me, that is the challenge, that
to find out how many of us died as a result of, because this is what the UK's perspective was. Black people died as a result of all of the research that Ubelius has to do. Really, it's about
this is the menu?
All of the research.
Scam to pay.
Oh, this is not the menu.
Ubeli had been approached on many on many layers to do research within the black community on health of the black community. In other words, how many people, not how many people died, but there are questions to do with the health of the community. And the question to do the mental, and the mental health of the community. All sorts of different questions and questionnaires circulating.
They've been approached by whom? The
Questionnaires, yes, government, national. What do you call them? NHS.
NHS.
And mostly.
Yeah.
And they send it directly through to Ubali because of the network that we have.
We shall go back on. Is he?
Bye guys, have a wonderful evening. I'm going home.
Okay, do we need to switch off the lights?
No, man, don't worry about that.
Okay.
We'll start that out, so don't worry about that.
Is it far to go?
Okay. All right, then, thank you very much. You've done very well.
You're most welcome.
Okay, great.
And I hear a brother there died.
All this is going on up here.
Cheers to Bay.
Good
night.
Wow, big things are going on here. We have big debates going on in your absence. Yes.
Cheers to Bay.
Yes, well,
Cheers
this is
to Bay.
space for that tonight.
Yeah,
Yes.
really nice.
My brother.
We were well taken care of.
All right.
You have minutes.
Yeah. I haven't been here, but the menu is what beautiful. Meaning I only had a salad, so I don't think I've really eaten.
That was just our dinner.
Over there.
The ambiance. Beautiful.
And the music didn't turn on yet.
We don't need it.
We're
Our heartbeats have been
good.
enough.
Cecil, Corrido.
No,
So
I
this
don't
is
think so.
this is Corrida's 1/6 of this place would be on what percentage? This is Ricky Cambridge, Corrido.
What's a delight.
Niaah,
Thank you, sister.
James, you met already. Ruth, and you met Nathaniel.
That's a cool shirt.
Okay, so what is there must be
He's a
some
cool
undercurrent
dude.
behind this crew.
Rastafari.
You bet.
The impact and
Yeah,
influence
come up
of
here, take up
Rastafari in revolutionary activity.
Nice. So when you bring the reasoning to the
Wider
wider
screen and maybe
masses,
the wider. I think this is it. I don't know unless Jahlani wants us to take it into a bigger space. If you think that there is scope to have discussions like this locally, is what I'm saying. This is one thing because this is the genesis or the impetus is for this research. But maybe there is scope to have this kind of a reasoning on a wider basis here.
I don't know. It's
Niaah.
Did that? No.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. But I think that one of the things that we're missing is channels that bring us together. So, you know, we need to be able to program the UK with content like what we've just had, because history is important.
We need to be able to program Jamaica with content that we've been having.
But when I say program the UK, I mean for us to be talking together.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm talking about. Because the youth them in the UK need the same content that the youth them in Jamaica need, and in a sense there is envy on both sides. The ones that are in UK envy the ones who are in Jamaica with mango and them things, and the one in Jamaica wish they could be in the snow and going through police hell with whatever. You know, so the disclosures of each other, I think, is a really important beginning. And that's the bridge we have not. Outside of BBC, I don't know what's happening in the UK. And BBC is disgusting. As much as I love some of the content, it's taking me down another agenda that I don't love as well, all the time. You know, so that's where I think our real void is, that we don't have ways of sharing what's happening with each other. You know.
And it's really important because, as I said, if Jamaica stands to lose on investment, real investment, hard money investment, diasporic investment, as opposed to getting it from foreign sources, China and so on, we're losing our diaspora who wants to be here and who are now investing elsewhere because the ground's here. Because we're not building the bridge. Yeah, we're not building the bridges.
Well, I don't know if you listen to that station, Bridge FM. When it started, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it was connecting Canada, United States, and the UK. And I thought it was I thought it was one of the most important bridges that happened, and I still think it is. But the same kind of, you know, because everyone is now international in their,
Wider.
yeah.